Welcome back to Franchise Tag Podcast, the podcast that has babies and also the deepest football analysis you'll come to find. I will be swaying probably the whole episode, so just get used to that for your eyes. And let's go ahead and let's get right into it with the PickEms recap. A hell of a week for PickEms for your two hosts here. I'm Elijah. That's Gabe. Let's go ahead and you led, so just reveal your record for the people here.
Yeah, so I went 13-1 last week, and I am so mad about the Broncos Chargers game, man. Held me from having a perfect week, but overall that puts me at 58-34. And like I said, got the Chargers Broncos wrong, but got every single other pick correct, including my lock, the Bucks at the Saints. And that one put me at 4-2 for my overall locks record on the year. But two really, really solid performances, 11-3 last week, 13-1 this week, looking to move forward and have another solid performance this week.
Yep, I went 12-2, which means that I disagreed with you for one pick, and that was the Cardinals-Packers. I had the Cardinals winning that one, so that's my extra loss in addition to the Broncos loss. But 12-2 for the week, which puts me at 54-38 on the year, and my lock hit. So I'm sitting at 3-3 for my lock record. Not the greatest lock record I've had, but my lock was on the Bengals over the Giants. And we will get into our game-by-game breakdown of that later. But starting off with Thursday Night Football, it was a big day for the 49ers in a divisional matchup. How did you feel about the Seahawks? Because, it's easy to talk about the good things we saw from the 49ers, but as, you kind of have a Seahawks, fan mentality, you have quite liked them past few years, so.
I feel like Gino made some pretty bad reads, and that's not something that we've seen him do too much of this year. So it kind of sucked to see him almost regress to a little bit to his bad quarterbacking days. But I think he'll be able to turn things around, and that's a really tough defense to go against, so I don't really hold it against him too much. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is their bad O-line kind of showed through as well. I feel like they were letting up pressure really quickly and not able to establish anything on the ground, which is a big thing when you have two good running backs and you want to establish that committee and you want to get Kenneth Walker going, you want to get Charbonnet going, and you just can't do either one. It kind of makes it tough to play football. And then it didn't help that DK had another big play called back for a penalty, and another play that was could have been a touchdown, but his toe was out of bounds. It was the Isaiah Likely touchdown in week 1 all over again, and it was just a rough, unlucky day that led to the 49ers winning. I think that we were justified in calling them frauds at 3-0 when we did that in the week 4 episode, because they have now lost 3 straight, and they are 3-3. Right, I'm not misquoting that. Yeah, they've lost 3 straight.
I'm pretty sure they are, yeah.
Yeah, so very, very glad we called that right, but it also does suck to see the Seahawks, who I quite like, not do great things. But yeah, 49ers.
I think the matchup of the day was Stone Forsythe against Bosa. That wasn't going to work out great, no matter how you tried to game plan it. So, as much as we did call them frauds, it was because they were undefeated. It's not like we're calling them frauds for the entire year and that they're going to, end up with a top 5 pick. They were frauds for an undefeated team, and it's kind of rolled that way. It's been proven now, sitting at 500. So, we still are fans, and we still look for them to, get better and win some more games. But it's definitely unfortunate the regression, but I feel like the regression is kind of tied to the offensive line and a lot of their defensive injuries. So they aren't like the Browns. They have hope. There's a light at the end of the tunnel here with kind of some people getting healthy and just seeing how the year progresses. I'm sure that they will not end up with that top 5 pick because they aren't that bad.
No, absolutely not. They were, to be a couple of unlucky plays away from being in a game against what I consider to be a really, really good team in the NFL, I think that's a pretty good look for a team. especially one that's got some question marks surrounding it right now with coming off 3 straight losses and heading into a tough stretch of games. But we'll see what they can do going forward. Next game we want to talk about was our game of the week, the Ravens versus the Commanders. That one you got to watch. I did not because I don't pay for a Sunday ticket. But if you want to get into that one.
Yeah, I'll let it be known. I also don't pay for Sunday ticket. I just was lucky with, where the NFL scheduling allowed, the regions to view it. So I got to catch that game. And it was a very good game. I think that Jaden Daniels definitely was like holding his own. Tony Romo was giving a lot of praise to him. Is that Brady who commentated that?
That looked a little Mahomey.
Hold on.
That's not.
I watched the game commentated by Brady, and I watched the game commentated by Romo. I can't remember which is which.
Brady did this.
The evening window, right? No, he did Lions Cowboys. Yeah.
Okay.
Brady did Lions Cowboys. All right. Okay. Here, just restart the Ravens Commanders thing, and then bounce it to me.
All right, next up, the one we want to get into, our Game of the Week, Ravens Commanders, which definitely lived up to that Game of the Week status that we've placed on it. I, unfortunately, did not get to watch it live. I just got to look at the stats afterwards and really think, wow, that must have been an exciting game to watch. You, though, got to watch it, so if you want to dig into it and get some analysis going.
Yeah, I think, first things first, I think I'll say this every single time it happens, but man, Terry McLaurin, he finally has a guy to throw him the ball. You may have seen the clip of his fade route / out route in the red zone where he did a kind of...
Front left corner of the end zone?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I did see it.
Yeah. He had a little post-game breakdown of that, and that was great to hear. Just talking about the way Jaden Daniels read his leverage, read the DB's leverage, and understood the body language that he was going to hit a fade off of it instead of cutting inside like the play had been drawn up to do, was a slant. So having Terry McLaurin have someone that is on the same page as him in the realm of football knowledge, just pure IQ on the field, it's great. And that's what leads to these great plays by him. And Jaden Daniels, he held his own. It's no secret that the O-line for the Commanders is a little suspect. And they're going against a solid pass rush. It's not like it's the best in the league, but it's very good. But on the flip side, it was a one-score loss for the Commanders. And the Ravens were playing how the Ravens play. Derrick Henry went over 100. He had 2 TDs. Zay Flowers got the ball a lot. He got it early. And, actually, Mark Andrews made catches. Shocker. He actually got a rep where he was a receiver and not a pass blocker or run blocker. But, yeah, the Ravens are playing their brand of football. They play it very well. So to have a 23-30 score and, it's not like anyone specifically made a huge mistake that it's that cost them the game, or this happened and that's why that no, it was a solid game, very good performance. I will say though that they couldn't really get the ball running for the Commanders. They could not run the ball very well.
Lack of Brian Robinson will do that to you though.
Yeah, having the lack of the main guy back there is going to hurt that. And then you just kind of have the fact of the matter is that they don't have that good O-line. Meanwhile, the Ravens can pass, they can throw, they have a lot of tricks in their bag. The Commanders were a little bit pigeonholed, but they're still good pigeonholed. Jaden Daniels, when you put the pressure on him, he's performing well enough to live up to that, as opposed to I don't have a run game, so it's going to be a really crap day because I'm, shout out Dak Prescott. I'm going to throw a bunch, and I'm going to throw a bunch of picks as well. Jaden Daniels is proving week after week that he's excelling, and it's not yet stopped. And he's playing good teams, the Ravens, top of the AFC, and hell, Lamar just owns the NFC. So for Jaden Daniels to kind of come in against a veteran who, they've been compared to each other a lot, or I suppose Jaden Daniels was compared to Lamar, but he's facing someone who he heard his name likened to a lot during the process, and there's gonna be like that extra height of the moment. You're playing away, and to be that close, I think Commanders fans, I mean, you were already happy when you were at 4-1, but 4-2 after that loss, that doesn't really sting that much.
Yeah. We can get into the main topic, I think, of today's episode, not necessarily Drake May's debut, but the fact that this entire weekend was just kind of marred by refs. And that goes back to the Thursday night game. Something we didn't even talk about was the punt that bounced off the ground and touched the Seahawks returner's hand very clearly in replay. It bounced off his hand. It moved his finger. It was very clear to us, and was reviewed and determined to have not touched his hand because the replay booth did not get that HD footage that we got, which is just insane to me. There's no way that's true. And if it is, then there's other problems that need to be fixed with the way the league is run. But that game, awful. That play really was awful. And then the Patriots game, man, like I have tried this season to be a little bit more lenient on the refs and kind of pay attention. Like, are they actually being biased? Are they calling penalties that I don't think should be called? And maybe being on Patriots Twitter a little bit more and checking the live tweets going on during that game. But there were a lot of people that were like, yeah, those refs aren't making it out of the stadium. And they weren't necessarily joking when they said that, because it was horrific. Oh my goodness. It was every single little ticky-tack call that you could make against the Patriots was being made. And then there was a play where Antonio Gibson got a handoff. A Texans defender grabbed his head and turned it completely to the side, grabbing his face mask, uncalled. They showed the replay. It was so clear and obvious that it was a face mask, uncalled. And I went into that game fully expecting us to lose. There was no shot that we were winning. But Drake May threw 3 touchdowns. He had 3 turnovers, but one pick was a slight overthrow that, it's really on Pop Douglas for only being 5'10". If he was like a little taller, he tried a little harder, then that's not a pick. So that one's really not on him. No, but the second interception was just a throw that bounced off of a helmet and then into the air and was pinned against the back of Hunter Henry, I think, by the Texans defender. So it was just like a really, really skilled interception by them off of a tipped ball. So I don't really count that against Drake May. And then a fumble by him, a strip sack. That happened the play after that missed face mask. So without that missed face mask, or if they had called that, we would have gotten 15 yards, probably would have run it again because we would have gotten a first down. That fumble wouldn't have happened. So like even if I knew we were going to lose and we did lose, it's just aggravating to watch a game that is so horrifically called. There was a DPI called on us in the end zone where the guy didn't touch the receiver that was being targeted, so that's not defensive pass interference. He also didn't touch the guy they said he touched, more than like normal contact that happens. But, Texans needed to win, so can't have any good calls go the Patriots' way, and have to have all the bad ones go. So that was probably the most aggravating game that I have watched when it comes to referees. And we'll get into some more referee hatred when we get to Monday night, but we can we can get to any of your opinions on Drake May's debut, the Patriots-Texans game, if you want.
Yeah, I didn't get to catch like much of it. I think I saw a couple of the highlight plays. Not saying that there was many of the Patriots highlight plays. No offense. There was the one,
and then the Pop Douglas touchdown too. Two of the Drake May touchdowns were big highlight plays.
Yeah, they had, hell, Drake May kind of showed a lot. I'm not sure how much of it is marred by the turnovers or the penalty, how it was called. I think that it's definitely a more you're closer to winning than you were 2 weeks ago with
Oh,
Jacoby
no doubt,
Brissett.
no doubt.
No offense, he was really like sacrificing his life out there to keep Drake May from going into the lineup, but he couldn't keep him out of the lineup. Drake May performed well
Yeah.
despite that. So I think that it's looking up. I'm not sure how far up.
No, it's
It's got-
it's definitely looking actually I think very far up because that's the best game by a quarterback in for the Patriots since Tom Brady played, I think. So that game by Drake May, his debut was better than any Mac Jones game, any of Cam Newton's games before he got COVID and sucked, and any of obviously Jacoby Brissett's games or Bailey Zappi's games. And it was against a pretty solid defense in the Texans. So I'm
yeah,
not
that's a good defense to
yeah
go against as well. So
to
it's
pick
not
up
like
yeah, to pick up 3 touchdowns against him, to get the success he had, I'm really excited for the future. And I talked a lot of bad about the game, but that's because it just leaves a bad taste in the mouth when that's how it goes. But I think for the future, I'm extremely excited to see how Drake May does. And this quarterback class, man, is shaping up to be something special. Sans the 3 that were taken outside of the top 3. But I think that's enough talking about Drake May and the Patriots and the refs for now. So we'll get into the Steelers, who played a pretty solid game. They clapped the Raiders a little bit. Fields scored 2 touchdowns, and now they're benching him. So I have many thoughts on this whole situation, but I would like to hear yours first. So if you would like to go ahead and take us away.
yeah, big win for the Steelers. I'd say that it's primarily off of the back of their defense, the way that they have won thus far in the year. Last week, they were like, oh, we're going to start giving Russ some practice reps. He's back at practice. So then, everyone's thinking, oh, Russ is going to start against the Raiders. And then he doesn't. So I'm thinking like, okay, cool. Fields is their guy moving forward. And then Fields goes ahead. And yes, he doesn't have the most spectacular passing stats, but he does score. He scores for you twice. 2 scores that I don't think Russ does at this point in his career. And so the trade-off here is you're going to hope that you get more effective passing out of Russ, because you're virtually gonna lose the athleticism of Justin Fields. Justin Fields, he's a lot younger, and he's at a point in his career where his entire career up to this point has been based off of his athleticism. And Russ, he's had plenty of years since being the super athletic, late in the year MVP runner-up that eventually falls off a cliff at the end of the year candidate that he was. And it feels really stupid. I get it, you didn't beat a great team, and you didn't pass for a lot of yards, but you're winning. You're 4-2. What more do you want out of Justin Fields before you're like, oh yeah, like you're going to bench Justin Fields and tell him you're not our guy, and then you're gonna have Russ come in and suck ass, and you're gonna be 4-4, and then you're gonna be like, Fields, you want to come back and start again? And Fields is gonna be like, yeah, because I want to go get a bag somewhere else next year. Holy shit, I hate you people.
All right. My thoughts on it are that the Steelers are really dumb, but I think I'm in their heads about it, and I know why. And it's because of the pick that they traded to the Bears. It's a 6th that turns into a 4th if Fields starts 51% of the snaps. So if he starts majority snaps, he gets, or that pick is a 4th round pick instead of a 6th. I don't know if they're planning on this being a 1-year Justin Fields rental. And so they don't want it to be a 4th round pick that it costs them, and they just want to have him for like 7-8 games, and maybe towards the end of the year you're losing a bit. That streak of above 500 seasons is at risk, and okay, Justin Fields, come save us. But that is quite literally the only reason I can think of for why the Steelers would do this. And so I have to believe that that's it, because despite the lack of passing numbers, he's not throwing picks either. He's just, it's not that it's, oh, he's an inefficient passer. It's that he's just not throwing the ball that much because he's a more effective rusher than he is passer, and he knows that. So he's going to utilize his legs, and he's only thrown one pick on the year, and he's lost a couple fumbles. But that's what rushing quarterbacks do. So if you have a bunch of passing numbers from him, you're going to have more interceptions, and you're also going to have fumbles because he's a running quarterback. It's not like you're going to completely negate the rushing aspect of his game. So I don't see it. I don't see it from the Steelers' point of view because ultimately, even if it is because of the pick, it's a 4th round pick. You're not finding somebody of Justin Fields' quality who's going to win you those games in the 4th round. It's just not happening. In the older NFL, when you're finding good quarterbacks down the board, sure. Today, hell no. Like Brock Purdy, it's a lot of the system and weapons, and not as much. He's a great quarterback, and I think he's a big part of the reason that the 49ers are successful. But in a different system, he would not have been as successful. So you're not finding somebody that can have success regardless of situation like Justin Fields can in the 4th round and beyond. So it doesn't matter what pick it is. So I just
if that's the basis for it, which, as you said, that's the only conceivable basis for it, why are you valuing the difference between a 4th and a 6th round pick more than racking up wins to make the playoffs to have a shot at the Super Bowl? That's everyone's goal. You just got to get in the race. You don't have to, you don't have to make it and be the best in the regular season. You just got to get into the playoffs, and then anything can happen. You can have your own little Cinderella story if you go in at 9-8. Tomlin. The fact that if this is the basis for it, which it seems like it should be because it's the only thing, it's really dumb. The valuation put on that pick over the chance for Justin Fields to take the reins of the offense and run with it.
Yeah, and the other thing is you're not tanking. You're the Steelers. You never tank. You always go 9-8. So it's not like you're not tanking at all because you're the Steelers, but you're also not doing badly enough. You have 4 wins. There will be teams in the NFL this year that have less than 4 wins. So you're not getting the first overall pick. You've already excluded yourself from that conversation by winning 4 games. Mm-hmm. So there's no way that you can excuse what they're doing. There just isn't. And maybe we're a little high on Fields just because that's, we were high on him for the Bears, and we're still high on him. But I mean, just on paper, Fields is so much better than Russ. And if you're going to have to pay one of them, unless you think you're taking a quarterback in the 1st round in a weaker quarterback class, but you're not doing that. So just pay Fields $25 a year for 2 years and tell him, look, we're going to start you the rest of this year. We're going to give you a $50 million 2-year contract, and then we'll extend you past that. But I'm at a loss in this saga.
Next up in our little docket here is the Lions beating the Dallas Cowboys 47-9. Huge win, but it still isn't a good day. The revenge, everything culminating against the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's world on his birthday, it all amounts to nothing in the heart of Lions fans, as we lost our defensive standout, our defensive player of the year candidate, Aiden Hutchinson, with his fractured tibia and fibula, with a rod in his leg immediately after the game. That was terrifying. If you've seen the clip, I feel sorry for you, and I wish that you were able to avoid it. It's a really brutal injury, and I just really hope that he rehabs fully. There's a lot of talk of if we make a deep playoff push, then he might be ready in time for the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl is 4 months out, and the average rehab process for this is 6 to 8 months, and Do I think it's possible? Yes, because a lot of players have had really crazy rehab times. But if I was going to be like pushing for it, like I'd rather him have a full recovery and off season and get back to us next year than push it and then have something worse happen as a result of playing with still a slightly fractured leg or something along those lines. But on the brighter note, we still did beat the Cowboys. We beat the brakes off of them. We were trying to get the ball to as many offensive linemen as we possibly could late in the game. The commentator said, and I quote, "Jared Goff is looking downfield, probably for an offensive lineman," and that really cracked me up. I was a big fan of that. Shout out Kevin Burkhardt. But yeah, it was a very dominant win for the Lions, and it kind of sets us up very well for where we might go past here. But we do lose a lot of our pass rush by losing Aiden Hutchinson. So we won, but at what cost?
Yeah. I think that there's a couple other things to talk about in that game that I will mention. You used a lot of trick plays, and it was in a blowout game, and you let the league see some of what you're working with trickery, and obviously, you know, the league going into it, Ben Johnson, trickery. He's going to pull some stuff out of a hat, but I don't know. I don't think you should have been pulling out your flea flickers in a game where you're dominating, and I don't think you should have been pulling out, you know, your Penei Sewell hook and ladders in a game where you're already gonna win and there's no point to it. And I understand, you know, the kind of desire to get an offensive line touchdown against the Cowboys because of how that ended last year, but I just don't think it was worth it when it comes to the league now seeing some of what to watch out for. And, you know, going into a game against the Lions, you tell your DN, hey, make sure that you're actually engaging with Penei Sewell or with Dan Skipper or with whoever you're engaging with, and that they're not going out wide for a hook and ladder or for something like that. So I think you may have lost a little bit more in that aspect as well, but the team looked dominant. Like it looked like if one person has an off night, there's 4 others ready to replace them and do well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens when you build a really good offensive line and you have solid receiving weapons and a quarterback who makes good decisions and 2 really good running backs that play differently, and one can be a bit of a change of pace guy if one's not having a ton of success. So just really speaks to the Lions roster and their longevity this year.
Yeah. And, you know, you said, you know, if one guy has an off night, you could say that Amon-Ra St. Brown had an off night. He had 4 catches and under 40 yards. He had a touchdown, but it was very late, kind of just driving the score up there.
Dan Campbell had him in fantasy.
And so you could say, like, yeah, he had a off day, but he's still, you know, saving, like, he's still getting a score, and the team around him did not skip a beat whenever he was having that quote-unquote off day. But yeah, the main takeaway from this game, despite the huge score, despite beating up on the Cowboys, it is the loss of one of our best defensive players. So we're going to need to operate without him. I know that we signed someone off of the Bengals practice squad, so we're hurting for it because the Bengals don't exactly have a great, you know, depth of pass rush there. And if we are stretching into their reserves, we're hurting for it. We also lost the backup who came into the game immediately after Hutch. Also got hurt. I think his name's Isaac. I know it's Pecco. I know his last name's Pecco, but he got hurt. He's also on IR. So yeah, it's being stretched a little thin, the lack of pass rush we have, and we'll see how that comes to bite us later in the year here. But that is enough of the Lions talk. We can get into Monday Night Football, which is also known as the referee show, if you want to kind of take us off here.
Yeah, there was different kinds of bad refereeing than there was in the Patriots-Texans game. And it also had a bit of a bigger stage, being a primetime game rather than a noon game that was not nationally broadcasted, you know? So they were just horrific on both sides. Aaron Rodgers called them out. And I'm sure he'll get fined for that, but he was like, yeah, that roughing on me, that wasn't roughing. I agree, Aaron. Thank you. Just the rest of the calls the entire night were just, they were either ticky-tack or just straight up bad. And then it seemed like they made one bad call early and they were like, all right, guys, got to make sure to give a makeup call. And then they were like, ooh, that one was a little worse. Gotta give a makeup call to the other team now. And that they were just trying to make up for each call as they went on until by the end it just got to be like, oh, he touched him, flag. I'll flash the tweet up on the screen if I can find it, but the flags gained more yardage total than any one player. It was like flags had 204 yards from scrimmage, and the highest yardage gaining player was like 160 something, and I think that was Breece Hall, and then I think the Bills running back had like 130, and that was the top three in the league in the game.
Yeah. You know, there's things to talk about that aren't the refs in this game. Josh Allen has continued to make the most out of what he has, and loves throwing the ball just a couple yards away from the sideline. He's quite masterful at it. The Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary, while, you know, it didn't win the game for them or anything like that, it was a surprising big play to end the half when you're, you know, on the opposite side's 50-yard line. It's not something you are really thinking of just needing to defend. But with Aaron Rodgers, you can always have the Hail Mary in your back pocket. And then, you know, there was some bad kicks that certainly got a highlight there.
Greg Nolan.
Yeah. And then the extra point miss, it was a tight game. And, you know, I'm not sure how I feel about it being so tight. It kind of gives me some more questions about the Bills. The Jets, new head coach in the building, interim. And it really seems like they traded defense for offensive production. Really flip-flopped on how that was going to rock, despite elevating the defensive coordinator. It was a very interesting game. And do you have anything to speak on outside of the refereeing?
Yeah, so I think we saw kind of the weird niche abilities of both quarterbacks at full display. Aaron Rodgers has an uncanny ability of completing Hail Marys, and Josh Allen has that uncanny ability of completing passes when he's running towards the sideline and diving out of bounds. So we saw both of those on full display. And then, yeah, I think Robert Saleh was very, very much a big part of the Jets defense and why it was so good, and he's going to go somewhere and either be a head coach or a defensive coordinator next year, and that defense is going to feast. But they changed play callers, so it's not Nate Hackett calling plays anymore. It's whoever else it is, Todd Cowing or Dowing or something like that. Apologies, Todd, if that is your name. And that led to Breece Hall getting a lot more touches, which I think is something that was a bit lacking. And Braylon Allen had a little bit of a lesser role in this game. And I don't know if that was by design or if that was just, hey, let's feed the hot hand. Because Breece was gashing all night. Yeah. He didn't get any touchdowns, but he was gaining a hell of a lot of yards. And I think the Jets looked a little better. Aaron Rodgers looked a little bit more active. He looked a little bit less tired. And maybe it was Saleh leaving the building that really reinvigorated that offense. But I do think that it definitely made the defense a little bit more sluggish. Because they loved Saleh, and a couple of them came out and were afterwards and were like shocked he was gone. And they were just like, yeah, the rest of the season, I mean, we're still playing for him. Like, that's their rock. Their rock is Robert Saleh, and now that he's not there anymore, it just kind of it showed a little bit.
Yeah, as I kind of said, they flip flopped the offense for the defense, and like, okay, you flip flopped Aaron Rodgers looking dejected for the defense looking and playing a little bit dejected, and you know, there's some other big news out of New York that we can kind of get into and transition out of our game by game recaps, and that's a certain trade that occurred today, 2 days ago.
Two of them, both of them to Buffalo, both of them to New York.
Oh, true.
Because Buffalo's
the
in
state
New York.
of New York. Yep.
Yeah. And the Monday night game. I mean, we can just link them on that. But yeah, the trade that I kind of advocated against was Devontae to the Jets, and we kind of knew it was going to happen. Derek Carr got injured and was out, and so that kind of, he was vocal about wanting to play with a familiar quarterback. So not going to a new situation, just kind of being in a happy retirement home, and the Jets are perfect for that. I hear it's great in New York this time of year. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to save the offense. I think it will. I think the offense will look better, but I think it's going to be on the back of the new play caller rather than on the back of Devontae Adams. And Devontae being there is going to make Aaron actually want to play football, because he seemed to want to play football when he was targeting Lazard, and he seemed to target Garrett Wilson out of necessity, and then just looked dejected after the fact. So
yeah. And, we weren't in favor of the trade, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work out great for them. It's just kind of a boring trade. Like, out of any of the landing spots, it's what was expected. So that's at least why I was kind of against it. It was like, okay, it's just going to be more of that. But on the other side, there's the Amari Cooper trade up to Buffalo. And this is one I'm actually like, that's exciting. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of that trade. We have seen how Josh Allen has performed up to this point in the year with the wide receiver options he's had. And Amari Cooper is not Stephon Diggs, and it's in the positive way. He
is. Oh my! He loves good football players and good football. Hey, a third trade. As of 50 minutes ago, Texans are trading Cam Akers to the Vikings. That one doesn't have as much implications, but yeah.
This one does not relate to Monday Night Football,
or New York.
Ignore it.
So we're just not even going to talk about it. I mean, Cam Akers to the Vikings. What the hell?
Yeah. The Amari Cooper just really has me excited, because I know the level, the caliber of player Amari Cooper is going to make a big difference. And it's not going to be like, okay, we have to force him the ball because he's here. He's just going to get open. It's going to be hard not to give him the ball, because he is that just supreme of a route runner and technician and player as a whole. He's going to go ahead. He's going to get open, and he will perform well for the team because he has a great quarterback, unlike Quagmire, who he had last week.
That's crazy. I'm going to Photoshop a Deshaun Watson jersey onto Quagmire.
I would love to see that.
I will put it in the video if I choose to do so. I'm not going to actually do that. It's too much work for me. But
that's kind of like the trade talk. That's all that's happened thus far as of recording. And, I think next week we'll probably do a little... I mean, a lot of the dominoes have fallen, but we'll go over the next dominoes that could fall next week, when we kind of predict the last bit before the trade deadline.
The awards races are heating up, and it is time that we talk about them. Earlier in the season, episode 0? Episode 0, we made initial awards predictions. Now, right above us, you can see our predictions that we made at the beginning of the year. And I'm just going to leave that up there the whole time. I'm not going to change anything, because we want to have our initial predictions down for comparison for the end of the year. But we will also, I'm sure, be keeping note of our mid-season predictions as well. I think if we want to just do this award by award, I think that's going to be the best way to do it.
Yep. Do you want to start at the big boy award with MVP and then offensive players, or are we starting rookies?
I think we should leave MVP for last, but start offensive player. So we'll go offensive player, offensive rookie, defensive rookie, comeback player, then MVP. So For offensive player of the year, I think it's really tough to predict because it relies on who wins MVP. Typically, the MVP runner-up, if they are an offensive player, will be the front runner for offensive player of the year. I think right now we'd probably. The problem is everybody that's producing really well is just getting hurt, so it's tough to predict who might be the offensive player of the year or not. I think Derrick Henry is a really good look for that. And if a non-quarterback wins MVP in the very unlikely event that happens, it will very likely be a quarterback that wins it.
Yeah.
So I think right now, mid-season, my favorite for offensive player would be Derrick Henry, just to get that official word and not just talking.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry is the only one that comes to mind as really like having a shot. Like, yeah, there's a chance that a quarterback wins offensive player of the year. It's happened before. I hope it doesn't because, the MVP is the quarterback award. Just let it be that and leave offensive player of the year for everybody else. But it's yet to be, like I know my earlier prediction was like Tyreek Hill. Well, that's not going to happen. Tua went down and the production has halted for that. And so you kind of have to think about like who's getting the ball even if, a quarterback goes down or even if like a major proponent of the offense gets hurt. Derrick Henry will still produce if Lamar, they might not bite as hard on the Lamar read options, but it's still Derrick Henry. Like he's been in offenses where they didn't have a mobile quarterback that helped take the pressure off. He's still going to produce as he did. So Derrick Henry is my current leader for the offensive player of the year.
On to defensive player of the year, where we kind of for all of our initial predictions, we kind of wanted to go a little bit unorthodox. Yeah. So I said Max Crosby. I don't think that's happening. Do you have anybody in mind that's like immediately?
I've got a handful because I did do a little research into it because I perceived Aiden Hutchinson as the front runner of it. He's on IR, broken, leg, to put it simply. And I was doing some research into like who else has been really like dominant this year. And there's always like interception leaders to take into account. Yeah. Xavier McKinney's one of those. Mm-hmm. And I think second to him is Kirby Joseph. Like there's been good interception production so far this year. But to me, like I saw Dexter Lawrence's stats and I was floored. He has 7 sacks on the year. He has a lot of pressures, a lot of QB hits, and he's a D tackle. Like he's a D tackle on a bad team. And
yes,
he's producing
bad team, amazing D line.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, like he's producing very, very well from the interior spot. So, I feel like you hear like bigger names thrown around for defensive player, like more notable ones, Chris Jones, the Watt now. But I feel like Dexter Lawrence, I'm still staying unorthodox by saying Dexter Lawrence, but I still really like the prospect of that maybe happening. A D tackle winning defensive player of the year. I mean, isn't named Aaron Donald?
Yeah, I was going right there. I think, he's on a team with Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, who Thibodeau may not be producing a ton, and even Burns may not be producing a ton, but they do take a lot of attention. So It's always a chip from a tight end or a guard helping. So it's one-on-one guard and center with D tackles, and you're just not beating Dexter Lawrence one-on-one. So not taking away from him at all, his numbers are crazy and he's doing an amazing job, but that's just part of the reason why. My name that I came up with is not going to win it, unfortunately, but I think he is undisputedly the best player at his position in pro football, and he is the most undisputed best player at his position.
Linebacker?
And that is Fred Warner. I think that he is just so insanely good, and the pick 6 that he had against the Patriots, man, he's the reason linebackers can jump 10 feet in Madden, because that's exactly what he did. Landed on his back, got up, and ran it back for a touchdown. He's been playing insane defense all year long, and I don't have the stats to back it up, but I just know that he is the reason, or a big part of the reason that the 49ers defense gels so well and is so good.
Yeah, he's definitely up there too. He was a name I saw. His play has always spoken for itself. But when I was looking through, I was like, oh wow, he's got a lot of tackles, and he's gotten those big plays like that pick six you mentioned. So he's also
he's got a couple nice forced fumbles as well from him, where he just punched the ball out. So.
Yeah, some good turnovers forced. And then I'll go ahead. I'll transition us into the rookie of the year. Here I'll go offensive, keeping with that rhythm we've got going. And I think running away with it. The hell did I just say? Running away with it is Jaden Daniels. But Caleb Williams has really resurged. He's found a great rhythm. He's getting better and better every week. And it's like, which one of these sustains itself for the length of the season? And I'm feeling with the team around Caleb Williams, it's hard to not say him. Jaden Daniels, he's doing a lot. But if you're on a good team, you're more than likely getting considered for these awards at the end of the day. So I feel like it kind of leans in favor of Caleb Williams to make the win here, as opposed to Jaden Daniels with he's on a good offense, but the defense and the O-line, they're lacking there for him.
Yeah, I think you just took just about every word that I was going to say right out of my mouth, and I don't really appreciate that. The other thing I will talk about, because I hate predicting injury and tying injury into my predictions, but one of those two quarterbacks plays in a way that is much more susceptible to injury. So I think if I had to make an ultimate, this is the guy I think can do it prediction, I think Caleb started a bit slow, but that entire offense kind of started slow. They had to gel together, get some chemistry up, and DeAndre Swift really started slow, but he's really come into his own these past few weeks, and the receivers are getting healthier, and they're getting into things, and Keenan Allen caught a couple touchdowns, and he's trusting his receivers more. Cole Kmet caught a couple touchdowns. So I think it's all just trending up for Caleb, and Jaden Daniels started so hot that the talk around him will be much more of he has maintained this level of production, where Caleb started down here, but he got up to this level of production, which is basically the same level, but one of them was a huge improvement. So it's going to be talked about a little bit more than Jaden Daniels throws 3 touchdown passes and 300 yards again. It's that's insane, but I just that's my take on it. And then the injury thing as well, which I hate predicting and I hate tying into things, but you gotta kind of think about it.
Yeah, for a prediction for an end of the year award, you kind of have to consider what's production going to be like for the rest of the year, and if they're hurt, their production is 0. So I understand the point of view there. And then when we go to defensive rookie of the year, there's a few names that I think are doing pretty good in the running here. And I've got a lot of DBs in mind, with Nate Wiggins kind of leading the charge for me. But then you also consider there's FSU Rams guy.
Fisk.
There's 2 of them.
Not Fisk, the other
Not
one.
Fisk. It's the other one. Jared Verse. Jared Verse, I also think is up there because he's been doing great with the Rams. Everything I've seen about him, talked about him, he's doing really good for them. So I don't really know where the whole national media is on that race. I feel like I would probably lean with Wiggins, but that's just me. I don't know how great the production has been for Wiggins or for Verse on the flip side.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a complete curveball at you. I agree. I think Wiggins probably takes it right now, but Mike Sainristil is who I'm going to throw out there because he is a star on a bad defense, and I feel like that can stand out a little bit more than a cog in a well-oiled machine of a defense.
Yeah.
Where Nate Wiggins is playing just what he has to do, which is he's playing very well, and he is part of the reason that the Ravens defense is so good, but so is the rest of the defense, where the Commanders defense kind of blows chunks. And Mike Sainristil is a nice little bright spot in that bad defense. So I think that can kind of stand out a little bit more. And the other reason I'm throwing that name out is because if Jaden Daniels wins it, then I think Sainristil will have a little bit more of a boost to win it as well, to keep up that offensive rookie, defensive rookie, same team kind of vibe. Very different from my prediction of A.D. Mitchell and Liatu Latu at the start of the year. That did not go well.
Yeah. I can segue perfectly into the takes that didn't go well, because I projected Anthony Richardson for Comeback Player of the Year. And he came back.
He did come back.
He did in fact come back.
And then he left again. But
he left. So
But he's coming back again.
I think when you're looking currently at, like, okay, it's Aaron Rodgers. He just got a big piece. So hopefully that ups his production for the year. There's, Joe Burrow, but slow start for the year for him. So it's always hard to kind of, like, he's gonna be good, but what's his ceiling and how much does that help him in the Comeback Player of the Year? We got Kirk Cousins. We got Kyler Murray. He was gone half of last year, but I think he counts still.
Well, no, because he came back at the end of last year, so I don't think he would. I think it's more for somebody who didn't finish out
like
the season.
Season ending. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And, well, on season ending, then you got, like, Nick Chubb, but, like, he's still yet to see the field, so he's not going to compete with Rodgers or Burrow or Cousins. And if I'm picking between Rodgers, Burrow, and Cousins, projecting out for the rest of the year, I want to say Joe Burrow, and I have some basis for it, but what are you thinking before I justify myself? You gonna go burp? What is he doing? There we go. He's sticking with it.
Gonzo, baby. Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably going to be Rodgers or Burrow. I don't think Cousins, really. I think maybe Cousins. But I do think it's going to be between Burrow and Rodgers and maybe Cousins. I don't think Gonzo has a real shot at it unless all three of those quarterbacks start to kind of slow down and throw picks and not lead their team to success. And Gonzo's been pretty good coming back. He's let up a few touchdowns, which he didn't do at all last year, but he's also been locking down some of the better receivers in the league. So I think he's on
the
pace
reasoning I had for picking Burrow out of the other two is Burrow's lack of a defense versus, Aaron Rodgers had a good defense and he did not perform well. He gets Devontae Adams back. We'll see how that goes. But Joe Burrow has been producing well on offense, and he doesn't have a defense. So if the game's going to be on his shoulders, and he's going to be racking up a lot of, those, I won't say garbage time, but, like, I'm down big, I need to make this a close game stats, I think he's more than likely to do that. And then Kirk Cousins or, Rodgers are to kind of rack up some stats.
Yeah.
But
I think MVP talks is time now. We've spent a lot of time on this segment. This is going to be a long segment video.
Yes.
However, it's important to talk about. It's very important. On to the MVP. I think it's a Lamar three-peat is what it's looking like right now. I think he's kind of the front runner at the moment, and I don't know if anybody else is going to really touch that. Josh Allen, maybe with Amari Cooper coming in and no interceptions thrown, he could make a pretty big push for it, especially if the Bills stay good and Amari Cooper comes in and plays like his, the best of himself and not the Browns of himself. So,
yeah, I think it's the same group. I would honestly, it sucks to, bring it up, but, like, Mahomes is always in the running for it. And,
I don't think he is this time.
It very well could be a, like, oh, he's the MVP because look at what weapons he did most of the year with. And less of, like, yeah, he hasn't played great this thus far. He hasn't played an MVP caliber thus far, but it's hard to say that he won't eventually play MVP caliber. And also, he has really no one to do it with, whereas you have like Amari Cooper is now there, and you have Lamar Jackson with his slew of offensive weapons. That like I think Mahomes is going to get votes. I don't think he's going to win it based on what we've seen this far, but it's a name that is still in contention because it's going to get a vote somehow because he's got like 6 fucking offensive players on IR.
If a single person votes for Mahomes, they should have their ballot revoked unless he
Chris
throws like
Collinsworth?
6 touchdowns a game for the rest of the season. He is not playing at an MVP level. They are winning on the back of their defense, not on the back of Mahomes. He is playing like shit compared to Mahomes standards. And is that because he's lacking receivers? Absolutely, it's because he's lacking receivers. But that doesn't mean that we should give you a pity MVP because you had some injuries happen. Like that's just stupid. So I really, really hope that he doesn't get votes unless he completely turns the season around, because he is not playing anywhere close to the level of a Lamar or a Josh Allen right now.
Yeah. My personal pick would be Josh Allen because I think Derrick Henry takes some of the steam away from Lamar Jackson. He's being a very big and productive part of the offense as well. So it could be the MVP, going to Lamar. But personally, my pick is Josh Allen.
Cool. I think I'll lean Josh Allen as well because he's been looking this good with no weapons, and now he gets Amari Cooper. So his numbers are only going to improve as long as Amari Cooper comes in and is okay. I think that just about wraps up our segment on the award races about halfway through the year. Not quite. We're a couple weeks away from halfway, but we're close enough that we can call it halfway. And we can get back into the rest of the episode, getting to stocks next, I believe, if you are ready for that. Elijah was, in fact, very ready for that. Gabe, myself, however, was not. So I tried something fancy with the recording. I should just stop that and just go back to what worked. But it unfortunately has led to us not being able to use the stocks footage at all. So I will just go ahead and tell you what happened. I brought 3 shares of the Patriots stock at $175 a piece for $575 total purchase. I bought 2 more shares of the Bengals stock at $350 a piece for a $700 total purchase there, and I sold my share of the Bears stock at I believe it was $675 to get the money for that. Elijah sold his share of the Broncos stock, which was also at $500, so he gained $25 there. A nice move from him there. And then he bought 2 shares of the 49ers and 1 share of the Rams, and I believe those are the only moves that he made. Again, apologies for losing the footage. It is entirely on me, nothing to do with Elijah. It is just my incompetence when recording, so will not happen again. That is my personal guarantee. And let's kick it to PickEms, cutting out all of the stocks footage that we just lost. Into week 7 of PickEms, we're going to be kind of blitzing through a couple of these. Again, GPT's pick is always going to be in the top left. They ChatGPT went. What did they do last week?
11-3.
11-3. It's pretty good.
With their lock hitting. Lock on
with
the
their
Ravens.
lock hitting. They locked the Ravens, yeah. I did not get a lock of the week from them this week, unfortunately. But I think we can get into PickEms, talking a little bit more about a couple matchups, blitzing through a couple others. I think we're opening up with our shit show of the week here on Thursday night, which is going to be Broncos at Saints. And in this one, I've got the Broncos. It's going to be an awful game, but one of the teams got to win, and one of the teams is out their top 2 receivers. They're starting left guard, center, and right guard, and they're starting quarterback. And that's just the offensive injuries.
Jeez Louise. Yeah, it's not going to be a fun one. I've got the Saints winning in that one.
You got the Saints?
I got the Saints. They're playing at home, and I really don't have much faith in Sean McVay and like the Bo Nix experience as of right now.
Sean McVay.
It could be good. Did I just say McVay instead? I always fucking say their names backwards. Peyton.
It's like,
yeah,
damn, you don't
Sean
have
Payton.
confidence in Sean McVay? You see what he's working with this year?
I don't have confidence in Sean McVay to coach the Broncos to a win. Yeah,
Well, I don't either, because he's not doing that.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm going Homer here because I think that they're both pretty bad teams. And Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix, it's going to be an interesting bout, but I don't think it's one that Sean Payton is going to walk away victorious from. Despite the high level of defense, clearly that didn't matter last week when I picked them to win. So maybe I'm just a little scorned.
All right. Next up, Patriots at Jaguars in London. I know this is the ones you were supposed to lead into, but it's my Patriots. I'm leading into it. And this is, I believe, another one that we disagreed on. I actually went in and changed the color of yours, so I saw a couple of your picks. Try not to look too much.
Okay.
This one, I'm taking the Jags over the Patriots. I don't think they're a better team. In fact, I think they are a much worse team. However, I think that they are going to be more acclimated to London. They are not going to be jet lagged because they're staying there because they played there this past week. And I think that some of why they lost to the Bears is because of jet lag, because they left very late and got to London very late. And now that they've been there for a week and the Patriots are going to be traveling over there, I think there might be a little bit of jet lag on part of the Patriots. So that is why I'm leaning Jags in that matchup. They also just need a win, man.
I'll tell you what, the Patriots are lucky to have one of the shortest flights to London. So, it's not like the Patriots are that much different flight-wise versus if they were going to play like the Rams. So I don't have that much, bought into the fact that they are the technical visitors and flying over. I have the Patriots in this one. It's hard to have much faith that Doug Peterson will be keeping his job at many weeks, and I think that this could be a win for the Patriots and a loss for the Jaguars, which kind of tips the scale in the favor of some jobs being reallocated as they are suddenly opened up.
Yeah, they need a new culture, according to Doug Peterson. Let's get him a new culture. Goodbye, Doug Peterson.
Yep. And I'll go ahead and lead us off into the ones, since you stole mine, I'll lead us into the Seahawks visiting the Falcons. We kind of called them frauds a little bit ago. Had a whole video segment about it. I'm going to lean Falcons with this one. Man, I wish Algier wasn't the lead back for that team, but he is. So I'm going to have to, at end of the day, root for Algier to get carries for the Falcons this week.
What happened to Bijan?
What do you mean? What happened to Bijan? He was
the lead
in
back
carries.
This past week. They're using.
He was not. He had less carries.
He had more yards for sure.
He had 2 touchdowns, and I'm pretty sure he had less carries and yards.
Well, they also played the Panthers. I don't think they were taking that game too seriously, I'll be honest. Well, let me see. But John Robinson. Oh, and I can't see Algier. Man, fuck that shit.
Why can't you see Algier?
Well, because I was going on the fantasy app to see if I could click the game card and get the game stats. But I could not because it's Tuesday now. Anywho.
Okay. Here, I went ahead and I opened the ESPN app.
Ooh. I just have ESPN Fantasy.
I just had the fantasy app. I use Big Brain. All right, so ESPN, box score. Tyler Algier, 3 more carries and 10 more yards than Bijan Robinson.
It's pathetic. It is truly pathetic what they're doing to Bijan.
It is.
Well,
pathetic,
Bijan had 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't know if
Yep.
Algier is the one in that backfield because he had 3 more carries for 10 more
105
yards.
And, yeah.
Whoa! Against the Panthers. All right.
Yeah. Anyways, Titans at Bills. I've got the Bills in this one.
Buddy, no, I didn't say my pick.
True. Asleep at the wheel. What's happening now?
I don't know where I'm gonna cut this in, but I'm just gonna say stuff. All right, I'm just gonna start talking, and I'll have to deal with the carnage in post. We're at an hour and a half recording. I hate myself. All right, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. So Algier being the lead back, Bijan being the lead back, whatever you want to call it, yada yada yada. I've got the Falcons in this one as well. I think the Seahawks are good, but I think the Falcons are just a little bit better. Shut up, damn.
Can't
right
let you
in the
have your moment.
right in the middle of my monologue about the Falcons being better than the Seahawks. I
You
don't have
got
much
me
else to say.
monologuing.
You sly dog. Do you wanna lead us into another one since I apparently stole something from you?
Yeah, I'll lead us into the Titans at Bills. I think this is the Bills. I think Will Levis might have a really funny clip after this one, and that's the only thing he'll have. No more touchdowns for him.
Not another one. I'm agreeing with you there. Bills over Titans in the only stadium in the state of New York. I feel like I got to bring that up every time we talk about the Bills. Next up, we got the Bengals heading to Cincinnati. Nope. Cleveland.
Nope.
There we go. Different Ohio City. Why does Ohio have two teams? Bengals win in this one. That's all I got. Browns suck.
I'm never gonna pick the other team,
player.
so yeah, I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Bengals here.
Yep.
And then leading us off into, shocker after all of the other ones, the game of the week here with the Texans Packers. This is going to be fun. And I'm kind of leaning the Packers in this one due to the fact that it's at Lambeau. I think that the Texans have had a great, run of things, but they've also lost to some of those better teams. They lost to the Vikings, and who's their other loss to?
They have one loss, and it is to the Vikings.
I thought they had two for some reason.
I thought they did too. I didn't even question you. I was like, oh yeah, they've got to have a second loss. Who the hell did that to them?
Asleep at the wheel moments.
I need to have a franchise tag to sleep at the wheel moment stamp to throw.
It'll be an all too often occurrence, though. I will say that.
I can't wait for us to have a community that can put together a sleep at the wheel moments of us just forgetting basic things.
I'm gonna go Packers in this one. I may have forgotten what I was talking about and why I was picking them to win. Oh yeah, they're at home. There was some other part of that I can't remember at the moment. So yeah, Packers. Sorry, sleep at the wheel.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, sans Nico Collins may be a slightly more difficult task for the Texans to win. I'm still taking them. I'm still taking the Texans. I think it's time for my streak of good weeks in PickEms to come to an end. So I'm going to go against what logic says, and I'm gonna go ahead and take the Texans over the Packers. Joe Mixon is good. That's my logic for that.
True. That's a great logic brain.
Yeah, brain logic, brain, good things happening. That I don't know if you mentioned that's our game of the week, but it is. I stamped it up there at the beginning. You did? Asleep at the wheel. Then we get into one of our contenders for shit show of the week that we did not actually pick. I don't have a contender stamp though, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. We've got the Dolphins heading into Indianapolis to take on the Colts. This is an Anthony Richardson coming back game. This is not a Tua coming back game. Maybe the bye week helps him a little bit, helps him, get more cohesive on offense. Tyler Huntley, maybe he starts doing good things. But I got the Colts until the Dolphins prove me otherwise.
Yep, I will match that pick there. And then we have the Lions at Vikings, which, kind of possibly missed in regards to being a contender for game of the week.
Yeah,
with
actually,
how good the Vikings have been and with the showing that the Lions just put out. I'm going to pick the Lions. I'm a homer. Sorry about it. The Vikings are definitely scary, though. The packages that they will have to bring to our offense, meanwhile, our defense is currently lacking with the pass rush without our star player. And they've had a good offense this year. So, if you're purely matching it up that way, I could see it going in the Vikings' favor, but we did have just coming off a great week. We had some great play calling, so I'm gonna ride the wave here with the Lions here, but the Vikings are coming off a bye, so this is a dangerous matchup.
Unfortunately, I'm also picking the Lions, and when I say unfortunately, I mean for you. I said I was getting back to my ways of missing picks, so you better hope this ain't one of them. But yeah, I think the Vikings got to lose one eventually. I don't think they're the caliber of team to go undefeated. So they got to drop one, and a divisional matchup against a tough team is definitely one to drop. So maybe Aiden Hutchinson being gone hurts the Lions a little bit, but I think their offense is going to be able to do things to that Vikings defense that most offenses have not been able to. That's my reason for picking them. Then we go into the Eagles at Giants. This is Malik Neighbors' hopefully coming back game for the Giants. That being said, I'm still going to take the Eagles in this one. Healthy Devontae Smith, healthy A.J. Brown, healthy Saquon Barkley. And I think those three are very good pieces. And their defense, it's whatever. But
yeah, shaved head Nick Sirianni really is the turning point for this game.
I can't wait for them to fire him, man. But yeah, I guess go Birds in this one. Something like that.
Yeah, I really want to pick the Giants. I won't lie to you. The yearning to pick the Giants here is very strong. This would be a perfect little upset. But I'm going to go with the Eagles here. And then transition us into our next one of Raiders at the Rams. I'm going to be going Rams. I mean, this one is going to be kind of rough, I won't lie. We need to see the Rams kind of come off the bye week strong. And the Raiders were sellers most recently. So, yeah, they sold someone who wasn't really on the field for them in their past two, pretty bad losses. So why would anything change for the better for them? Going Rams.
Yeah. I agree. I'm also going Rams. This one is my lock of the week.
Nice.
Rams over Raiders. Got to use the Rams while I can. If they come back healthy, then it's going to be a really bad use of them to pick them over the Raiders when they may have a bit of an easier matchup later in the year. But for now, I'm going to go with that. I just think they're, by and large, the better team. And they're at home, if that means anything. Then into the Panthers at the Commanders. This one, if I had not already used my Commanders lock, would be an absolute smash the lock button. This is...
Yep.
Speaking of smash the like button, there we go. Catch us on Spotify. We never said that in the beginning. I'm going Commanders in this one. There is no shot that the Panthers beat them. And now saying that, the Panthers are probably going to win.
You've doomed them.
I'm sorry.
I'm going Commanders here as well. And then leading into the next game, it's Chiefs 49ers. And the Chiefs are coming off a bye week. Andy Reid is pretty damn good at winning games coming off of a bye week. It's the 49ers, though. And it's a Super Bowl rematch. There's no term for a third rematch, right? I don't know. But it's their third time. Two of them were in the Super Bowl. They've had some pretty big games against each other. I think Andy Reid kind of just, again, beats the brakes off of, fucking hell, what's his name? Kyle Shanahan. That's what I was trying to say. I think he outcoaches Kyle Shanahan again, despite what's going on with the Chiefs currently. I think the Chiefs kind of squeaked this one out with a win.
I think so. I'm going to pick the 49ers and then get really mad at the refs when they make a couple of calls that favor the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs end up winning by a field goal. Because that's how these things always go. So,
roughing the passer or a unnecessary roughness out of bounds.
Yeah, Mahomes is going to get decleated when both of his feet are in bounds, and they're going to call unnecessary roughness, despite it's going to be like shoulder to chest. So perfectly legal hit. And we're just going to have to hope that the refs don't baby the guy like we know they will. But go 49ers. I think just on principle, I may pick against the Chiefs every single week just because of how much I hate them. But it's going to be hard to do next week when they play the Raiders, man. That's going to be anywho, moving into the Jets at the Steelers. If Justin Fields was starting, this would be a consideration for me. He's not, so the Jets are going to win. This is a candidate for a lock of the week. There's no way Russ wins his first game back. I don't think the players are going to want to win with Russ as much as they did with Fields. So,
yeah, I actually, when I first went through my PickEms, this was one of the picks I had left blank because I was like, I don't know right now. And then they announced Russ was starting. So, lock of the week, I got it on the Jets to win this one. I really hope this blows up in their face because I don't like the benching of Justin Fields whatsoever.
Yep.
But moving forward, we got the Sunday night football matchup of the Ravens at Buccaneers. Another really good caliber of teams playing against each other, and it's prime time. I'm going to be leaning with the Ravens, but the Bucs have showed some really, really good things, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Buccaneers did win this one off of the back of their defense kind of not stopping, but corralling
stopping him.
the rushing attack from the Ravens. As the Ravens did have, they are breaking records through 5 games, through 6 games for the amount of rushing yards they have as a team. So I think it's a close one, but Ravens.
I'm going to go ahead and say it again. There's no stopping him. And I really should be saying there's no stopping them because, Lamar is back there as well. So yeah, Ravens here. I think the Bucks are very good. But I think the Ravens are Super Bowl favorites until the Chiefs play them. Again, in the playoffs. With some refs that suck off Mahomes in the huddle. Next up, Monday Night Football. Man, I don't know if it's evident enough this week. I'm just really, really not feeling the Chiefs this season. I just hate watching them play. They ruin every game that they're in for me. Monday Night Football, Chargers at Cardinals. This is just such an odd game because it's teams that have shown us they can be good and teams that have shown us they can be very bad. But I'm going to go with the home team Cardinals here. I like them as a whole unit more than the Chargers. Even if they don't have Marvin Harrison Jr., it could be tough for them. But we'll see how this one goes. I think this is one of the biggest toss-ups of the week, honestly, for me.
Mm-hmm. And to match the fact that it's a toss-up, I'm going to be taking the Chargers in this one. Marvin Harrison hasn't cleared protocol, and he very well might not play. He does have a lot of time to get there, though, so we'll see. But
I also just haven't been using him, so I don't think it matters.
Yeah. I'm going to be leaning with the Chargers here. If they can win when their head coach has heart palpitations, I think that they can win Monday Night Football against the Cardinals.
I just want to point out, last week I predicted the Cardinals game correctly. It's the first one all year.
And I didn't, so...
One of us kept the streak going, baby. Let's go.
We'll see which one of us gets, to double down. If I end up getting another positive, if I break my streak, or if you double up.
If I turn things around, predict every single Cardinals game correctly the rest of the year.
Yeah,
this is a long episode. We're both tired. I don't know if you could tell by my cynicism of the entire NFL when it comes to just seeing the Chiefs' name written down. I start hating the product.
I started this podcast wearing a baby, and halfway through, inexplicably unexplained, the baby is no longer here, and I changed outfits. So, yeah, I think
okay. That's the baby. The baby's fine.
It's okay.
Don't worry. And with that,
no one knows the number to CPS. What are you talking about? And with that,
deuces.